Hey, Marcy. All right, we'll go ahead and get started. Let's go ahead and start out with the zoning changes proposed. And yes, it's the meeting you guys requested, so we'll let you start, state your case, talk about whatever you want to talk about, and we'll kind of go from there.
The new seat. So that's the site plan that was approved. We haven't varied from it other than, I think when you guys stipulated that you want a 60-foot right away and some bigger water mains and stuff like that. So it's changed from that's in this down here, this little area here, we increased because of the wetland mitigation or wetland study that we had. So otherwise.
Sorry, which area was it? This one?
Sorry, yeah. So this little area right here, increased in size. So between the right of way that you requested and the wetland location is really the only thing that has changed in the beginning. Otherwise, the site plan has not changed. Unless you agree with that, or just, I mean, you can. Sorry, I'm gonna put all these off.
That's fine. It's fine. I appreciate it.
So this is my, when I was getting the site plan approved, this was my conceptual plan. This is purely conceptual. As of right now, we came in and we asked for a lot 1 Adriana site plan approval. This is probably the meat of the conversation tonight. So this site plan here has changed a little bit. Okay.
What's changed?
The only thing that has changed from when it first got submitted to you. This is the changed one.
That was the original.
This was the original. So the buildings have not changed whatsoever. The retention pond, nothing has changed. These two garages have changed.
Joel, which ones of these do you have permits for already? Educate me.
So
I'm late to the game.
So these two here, the northerly, westerly two, I have permits for them, and I have permits on these garages.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, that's okay. Thank you.
I gave you the double garage. Yes, those garages face both ways. Okay, which is important to know. I build the whole thing because we kind of use them as storage as we build. And then when the other buildings, the southern buildings are put in, then they face the garage. So then it's kind of the garage doors are somewhat hidden. So the only difference between my first plan that I came in and my final blueprint permit pulling plan is we removed like 4 garages off this one. And we removed garages off this one. And I changed how the dumpster locations were done. We actually shortened up the garages a little bit so that we had more turning radiuses for fire trucks. And if the garbage truck is sitting in a dumpster and kills, it doesn't stop traffic. So we shorten them up. So that's the only thing different from when I gave the site plan. You know, when I got my site plan done, when I pulled permits. So I removed a few garages to make the dumpster enclosures, and these are 8 foot tall, high dumpster enclosures. You know, concrete all the way around, and we skin them with siding. So it made it easier to get the garbage trucks in and out without blocking any out. So that's why we changed and shortened up the garage.
And the site plans were approved with your fill-in history for me.
Sorry, I'm
October 25th, 2022.
yeah, so October 25th. So nothing has changed. We stuck our first shovel in the ground, I think the day the moratorium went on for permits. That's the first time I had the permits pulled a little bit earlier, but one of the things I was honoring was I did not want to bring any traffic through Parkview. My agreement was that if we do these, we bring traffic from Cox Springs. No trucks go through. Now, I know there was some trucks and dump trucks, and garbage trucks that went through, but those were not ours. That was Chick-fil-A when they were working on the lift station. Our trucks were not able to drive through there. So we had it barricaded at the end to honor that with the neighborhoods, so we're not going through that, and we continue to do that. But I think Chick-fil-A is gone now. And they were parked down into our street, had a lot of stuff piled in on our gravel and our stuff, which is fine. But it wasn't our stuff that was going on there. So these are this is my.
That's okay. Brian can share.
So if you go back and look at your site plan here, or my original concept plan, it's the exact same building. You know, in our developers agreement, we were asked to not use vinyl siding, and we agreed. It asked for stone that faces either a secondary street or the highway, which we concurred. So we haven't changed whatsoever from from our original site plan. So I know that one of the biggest concerns that I have here is, you know, it seems like the city's, well, let me back up a little bit. I have not approached anybody with the city with any other lot, with anything. Anything that I do on them other 3 lots, all have to be brought here and proved. I have not approached the city with one detail of anything on them other than this. Because it could change, it might not change, it doesn't matter because it all has to come to the city. So I have not brought anything other than what my site plan has been approved. Because I know there's a lot of things that Joe's putting up, a lot of apartments. The conceptual plan does show more apartments. It also shows 55 and older. It also shows commercial. It also shows hotels. But I have not brought and looked for permission to do any of that at this time. You know, and I know that it seems like there's a little bit of distrust with me, with the council. So I've got a couple of questions that I'd like to ask. Has anybody reached out to Dyersville about our capability of working with the city, you know, making adjustments, making changes, following their codes and their ordinances?
And I did reach out to Joel, but I reached out to him as far as tax abatement.
Okay,
So
so,
that's the only,
I don't represent the people of Dyersville.
okay, but I'm gonna be a contractor doing a pretty large project in your area. So, and there's some distrust here, go ahead.
Just real quick. You bring up Dyersville. What other communities would you have apartment buildings or other projects in? I mean, instead of just one, you know.
So I've got, so Dyersville, we just got done with a project out there, that one happened in the apartments. You know, went through the same process we do here. You know, I think I had to zone that, site plans, building permit, same thing. You know, so I just think that it's important that we understand my capability.
Okay, and the reason I'm asking about other towns would be like, if you did your resume, you would have more than one reference, correct?
So to give you an idea,
Mhm.
and I make notes, and I'm not a person that likes to. I put my work boots on and I go to work.
Okay.
Okay. I've developed over 750 lots. It's probably one of the largest lot developers in Butte County. People don't even know that. We've built over 400 homes. I've been doing this for 33 years. We built 2 assisted livings that I own. One in Cascade, one in Eldridge. We're in the process of building apartments in, you know, Eldridge, which is another one. And I've used these comps in our conversations before. You know, what we're doing in other cities, how they handle things. Stuff like that. So I've got multi. I don't even know how I can count multi commercial pieces in here that I built. I mean, I don't know, you know, and I didn't even, it's not really what I was after, but what I was after was when somebody brings a project this magnitude in your city, it should be part of the city's responsibility to know and understand developers' capability. That's a fair assumption. Or a fair, I think I would have done that, you know, because there's a lot there. Now, it's not on your table yet, and it doesn't mean it's gonna happen because things can change. But what I represented from the get-go, I am, other than losing a few stalls in my garages, I am 100% on track. So I'm trying to go back to, you know, we're gonna talk about, you know, I lost part of my permits. You know, I've got contracts to build some of these. Can you get out of them? No, maybe yes. Depends on how mad your contractors want to be at you. I wrote the power company a $50,000 check out the other day that feeds those 5 buildings. And I don't get anything, if I don't build and they don't hook up, I don't get anything back. It's gone. They give me a certain amount of time and it's gone. You know, we've got, when you price these things out, you've got, you know, when I go in and I say I'm going to build 5 of these, oh, that's a lot better price than 2. So that there's so much that factor in this too. And the cost of bringing a street that far and getting my first project, whacked into a third of what was going to go there. That's not a real good return on this. You know, you pay $1.5 million for land and you put $1 million road in, or it's going to be more when it's done. And then I get 2 permits. You know, and I'm here. This is my attorney, Jennifer Clemens comment. I told her I want to do the talk because this is something I need to do. Because sometimes if we get derailed, I want to bring it back to the tracks and get it back on. Because this is just one thing that I plan to do here. This doesn't mean all these things happen. The zoning thing that you got coming isn't a big deal. This permit thing is a major deal. This is a major liability. And I don't want to make it sound like that. That's why I started with this, I'm on track. I did everything I said I was going to do. Unless you're telling me that I have not done anything I haven't done.
Joel, you filed these other 3 permits, right? Right after we
I-
issued the moratorium.
So I also have an attorney out of Des Moines that specializes in municipality law. And he told me that I should go get that bill. Because, well, it completes that job. The other thing,
So that was kind of my question.
let's take, I don't want to talk about the law. Let's talk about one of the things that I do have. If I've got a half-done lot, how well is that going to look in the city? You know, I can't finish grading the road. How do I plant trees when I can't finish grading everything? You know, I need foundations in to help finish grading. And so that I can't plant trees and then they're gonna be in the way if I'm able to build later. You know, to me, I thought I did a good job when I came to the city. There were some concerns about some of the 3-story vinyl sided buildings I did. You know, so I came in with a 2-story. And smaller than even what was required. I could have put 18 units in. So I tried to say, okay, I get it. So let's come in with a little smaller scale, not so tall. I'm okay with the, making them look a little nicer than vinyl sided or, because it was guided from the council. You know, that this is what they would like to see. And I went with it. I had no issues with it. And I still don't have any issues with it today. And our last meeting, I asked for a work session only to head this off. You know, because it sounds like there's a lot of pushback for the apartments in the area. I get it. They must be mostly emails or face-to-face because I don't see anything in work sessions. And if you do, it's very, very little. As far as what the pushback is. One of the meetings that 3 or 4 people got up and they never said, we don't want apartments. They said we have traffic issues. I don't want to be caught up into this traffic issue. So trying to wrap my head around this, a traffic issue is an apartment issue. I get if there's too many apartments, change your zoning, go from there. Wait till I come in with a site plan and say, hey, that's a great thing, or hey, no, we don't want it. But I haven't even asked for that. I haven't even approached that. And I can't do it until I bring it to you. So I'm asking that we minimally reconsider these, letting me finish lot 1 Adriana with all the apartments. Let me finish that thing up. And I can show you that this is, I can show you what we can do. I think it's only fair, especially for the investment that we're creating here. Joey, do you have any? This is my son, Joey.
We've met Joey.
Yeah.
Oh,
Right. I will call him my future son-in-law now.
There you go.
Last time he wasn't there, he was like, and I know we went bounce around a little bit with the grandfathering in. Well, we already knew that you couldn't do it. But we were seeing if you guys could do it. Okay, there's other things that come with it. That's not for discussion tomorrow or tonight. That'll be a discussion tomorrow. But what my goal is to, I'm asking, please reconsider this. Let me finish it so I can get it all grass seeded up, get the trees planted, so that I don't have, because right now you've got garages facing the highway without another set of apartment buildings there too. Because that was kind of making like a little campus. That was my whole intent. So at least reconsider, letting me finish up my 3 permits so I can finish this place up and then when the next project comes on your table, we can talk about it.
I'll start and I'll just say, it's not an unreasonable ask. I think our goal in the potential change of the zoning is to not let apartment complex get out of control.
But what point to stop? What point to start?
Well, I think we've already started. And again, I feel like we worked in good faith and had a pretty good understanding of Joel was looking for these 5. And that was before tonight or 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. So I mean, this isn't new information. So I believe it's a reasonable request to somehow work to finish this. And we'll just keep it to this, or just Joel's ask right now. And I'm looking for opinions from everyone else.
I think we need to wait till after the public hearing tomorrow.
Okay.
So I think we're at the hearing. Maybe it won't smoke, but there's gonna be multiple people, opposing.
I believe that.
And the problem with what I'm hearing is the concern is not necessarily tonight. What happens? We try to fill these, they don't get filled.
And that was our impetus for this. I mean, because we feel like, we're going to get beyond our capacity. And with these, quickly, the numbers, where did this put us based on our 2020 housing study?
The 2020 housing study had us at 158 apartments for years 2020 to 2030, and we're at 195. If we allow continuation on Joel's property and where Slavic is right now with the permits that he has pulled.
Survey said we should be at what?
158.
And with those done, we'll be at 100. So we'll open that.
Yeah, does not include student housing. No, that does not include
That doesn't
the
include-
student housing, that doesn't include West Schulte's development, that doesn't include, did I include that?
Yeah, that's how you did. How,
Okay, so
Yeah,
it's Free Roush, Cobb, there's a couple on Leslie, Cobridge.
So the only ones not included are college.
Everybody's included.
So we're over by 45. So
40%.
So when they, obviously, nothing's new, because obviously this was October of last year, and Slavic had his on the docket for 2018. So, and it makes sense. It makes sense, the zoning order will change it. But I think for me, yes, you got stopped, but now I got a half completed lot. You know, what's gonna be worse? You know, and every apartment building in town's got a little bit different price range in it.
what price range are you looking at?
We'll probably be in that 850. You know, and this was something I meant to bring, and this was something that, you know, I said at council meetings. And I'm not exaggerating when I say this. I have, to live in one of my apartments, I have a rules and regulations that are this thick.
What?
I actually have more bite when somebody, you know, like, gas is very good. And, but I've been in the other cities where, you know, people didn't take care of their houses and stuff, but they have no, the city doesn't have any bite in it. We actually have more bite if we don't like something or like what goes on.
Yeah, what if the city doesn't like something?
Well, then you put ordinances in place.
What enforces first?
What's that?
Who enforces that?
So the city of Dyersville, it had the same, this was their concern. But we drove around and there was more dilapidated, unkept houses to deal with than, and they were, you know, and there were a couple older apartment buildings, and they were like, well, see, that's what it's gonna look like. And I said to the city, make an ordinance that they can't have.
So who can enforce your rules?
We enforce our rules.
How often will someone on your staff be out at those apartments?
How often?
Do you do
So
an inspection or is it
here's-
just if you get?
No, we do inspections twice a year. We're probably an exception. We do, and the reason we do 2 inspections, one is we're changing filters, but we're monitoring who's there. and what they're like, and if they're safe. We've got hundreds of security cameras on every one of our buildings, not everywhere. We got a lot of security cameras. Because it's the easiest way to find out who did it and who you're gonna send a bill to. I hate to say it that way, but it's true. But as far as enforcing it, there again, I go, it's us. And we have management, 24-hour staff, that answer, take care of things. But you have that same issue with houses. The other thing that I would be doing,
The issues with houses are people own them, they take ownership of those.
not all, of them.
You're not gonna take ownership in your home?
There's people that don't. What, I agree with, I do agree, it's an issue. But the other thing is call the other cities and ask them how much they're burdened with it. I mean, to me, that would be that's a good thing for a city to know anyway. How many police calls, how many fire trucks, or how many, come there. I'm not saying no, I'm just saying, it's just good things to know. It is, I know it isn't as bad as sometimes it appears, or they make up to. Oh, yeah, we have a Farley's police officer on our, I wouldn't call him payroll, but when we had issues.
I wouldn't say that, yeah. As you do not have him.
But what I'm saying is, that's one way that we do.
You're a lawyer right now, right?
She's
She's just throwing her mouth around.
No, but what I'm saying is, we are tight with the police officers.
And they check for you.
And they don't check it on you. If we have any issues, they're on it. Because we don't want those in ours, just as bad as you don't want.
When you set up a lease, annually, like 2 years, 3 years, what type of leases do you normally?
What's your
they're-
term? Yeah.
They're year leases, and then after that, it's month to month. So we do criminal background check on everybody that goes in. You have to have, you have to make so much money in order to qualify. Even being, I don't know what it is. What is it? 3 times. 3 times. You gotta make 3 times the rent, in order for you to qualify. Housing, we probably have, I don't know, 160 to 70 apartments. And I think we have, 3 people on regular housing. And I'm gonna tell you right now, it's people like my nieces that, Loris, that we can pick and choose who we let in. I got little old ladies that are on it. So and I'm just being upfront with it. But out of all those apartments, I think I have 3 or 4. And one of them is my nephew that's kind of, he's disabled. I've got I own Windsor Park. We probably have a good handful there. People that just can't quite make ends meet, we will take it. But it's always based on, what we think of them, because we get to prove them or not. So it's one of the nice things that housing came up with. So when they talk about low income housing and stuff like that, I'm not gonna lie to you that we do take some, but we don't. The majority of now, the other thing is low income housing now usually is just something like everything that's there. So it's really not, the rents are getting so high that it's even harder for housing people to do anything unless they're going downtown in the older parts of the building, flats and stuff like that.
I'll make a comment, Mr. Mayor, Joel. I appreciate this. This is really good background for me to understand. I think you're making a reasonable request about finishing the original project from originally. As we started looking at these numbers, we realized that all the permits and things that have been pulled, plus if you finish your project, we're somewhere around 35 or 40% overbuilt from an apartment standpoint. So we just wanted to pause. Moratorium was just so we could pause and get a little bit more data, hear from the community again before we acted on the zoning ordinance. So that's why we don't want to keep jerking things around. So we'll resolve that one way or the other. I think my couple of concerns are as much about what these future things are gonna be. And, you know, if we end up with apartments and all these future things, I'm not sure that serves the best interest of Piasta long term, when this is kind of our commercial district, this piece and where Slavic is. Those are the places that we have to do commercial development. So you've envisioned some concepts and things here, but I want to hear you say it again. You haven't inked any projects in those things yet. You don't even have any conceptuals or conversations.
Well, the 55, we've had more than just conceptuals on the hotel. That's a little tougher game that we're still researching on it. The other thing is that we are all over that 55 and older.
And that's what you're conceptually thinking about up here.
No. That's the bottom line.
This?
No, sorry, other road.
Yeah, that.
No. So this
We should use direction.
is, and I'm gonna tell you what my conceptual drawing of
Yeah.
this is my 55 and older.
Oh,
It'll be
okay. I
like
see.
40, it'll be like a 45, 50 unit.
But you're envisioning it for that lot.
uh,
Yeah, that lot.
And then the above it is, well, if I was, because there's a lot of different price ranges in town, all the way from me being probably the lowest to the Loft being the highest and Slavic fitting in the middle. These would have been another upper scale that I perceive would have pool house, clubhouse, exercise room. That's all conceptual.
Multi-tenant dwelling.
There's no way that I would go stick a shovel in the ground if I didn't feel that I could. I mean, that's why it's conceptual. And will it change in the future? You know, that's why the zoning thing's not a big deal. Because you're gonna want what goes there. Even if I bring a site plan, you still gotta look at it, still gotta prove it, no matter what it is. You know, but I also think, I know I've talked to some of these neighbors over here, and they were like, yeah, we don't want apartments, and I'm like, well, what do you want? And they're like, nothing. Well, they know, and then later, later in the conversations, they do come back and they say, well, we know something's gonna go there. And I said, well,
I knew it wasn't gonna stay at one.
I said, do you have a problem with the 55 or older? And they're like, well, that's a good need. You know, that's a good exchange, you know. Now, I don't have a conceptual on if I try to do that with a slimmer, something, you know, townhouses type thing, all things. But I know I bumped you guys a little bit on this meal deal. You know, a 55 and older is not an assisted living. I own assisted living. I had 3 of them. I sold 1. I operate 2. They're massively a lot of work. We would buy land next to them, and we would put a 55. Our plans were 55 and older, and we learned not to do it because people would put them next to an assisted living, and it'll kill the assisted living. Because a 55 and older with a meal, so there's 3 things that seniors need, and when I say senior, I'm 55 already. I don't know why they call them that. So socialization is number 1 in the senior population, and I'm talking upper 70s, 80s. Socialization, so that's why you put in some community rooms and you can see your neighbor and go down and have a coffee up front and stuff like that. The second most important thing is for seniors is a meal. 1 meal a day. It's the most important thing other than socialization, and then it becomes care. So we learned that if you can build a community and take care of their socialization and a meal, doesn't mean they have to do it, because some of them could be under they cook on their own. And we really didn't have it. It kind of struck a chord with me because of how I take care of the seniors right now. And we just said you can't have a meal. So I got a little defensive with that because I thought that was totally wrong. And I do believe
I
it's
think
wrong.
that's a conversation for the day.
Agreed.
Um,
Agreed. So just going back to this, you know, I talked to a few neighbors and someday I think that they should be part of what goes there because I'm sure there's worse things than potentially a 55 and older and, you know, apartments. Now, you know, it's zone C2 and you can put a lot of things in C2. But that's not my conversation. My conversation is I'm asking for the rest of my permits.
Anything else for Joel at this time? No? Well, thank you, Joel. Appreciate all the effort.
And thank you for letting us have this work.
Sure.
Yeah, so my name is Nate Rennie, here for Thunder Valley Residences. I talked to just a little bit the other day at the last meeting. And, you know, I think a letter I forgot to hear for my clients got circulated to at least a couple of you. So you guys at least understand where we're coming from on this. And, you know, we really appreciate the concern you've got, the number of apartments and the number of units available. I think, you know, the buildings these guys are putting up are going for $1,200 a month per unit. So we're talking about,
When you have $1,200, 2 bedrooms, $1,500, 3 bedrooms.
so it's 1,200 plus per month. When these guys decided to buy all the lots in that phase 3, they changed their plans. They'd originally planned 24 units for apartments and changed that down to 15. So they've already made a pretty significant change in what their original plans were to make this, you know, all these cities look at these walkability scores, these, you know, what's going to draw people to the community. Well, they're going to do a bunch. They've already got the coffee shop in the Dartford, and they've got all these, the residential side just to the north, where they're doing everything they can to develop the commercial side to make the city of Piasta more feasible for all the citizens, so they've got options, so they're not driving into Dubuque for everything. I think the other concern that's here is the fact that we've got, I would say, maybe not a city-specific issue for housing, but certainly a countywide issue with housing shortages. So we've got employers that need places for their people to live. And it's obviously, Piasta is a great community for that, to go into Dubuque, come back out, or even to go west. And all the commercial that they're doing is they're trying to do everything they can to keep their money local.
So with that, how many people that live in your apartments work in the industrial? Is there a number? Can you tell that? Do you know that?
I don't know that, but it's actually, I know for quite a bit that some people work far away, some people work here in Piasta, because I see those neighbors, because I work a lot around here.
I know you're one. You got one.
No, but I see them, they basically, they leave like 7:45, it means they have to be at work at 8, so they don't travel too far. I mean, and I'm at work usually at 7:15, every day, so I see basically most of them living around between 7:30 to 8 o'clock. So it means that they should be local here. And also, kind of, I just want to add tonight, because originally we proposed 44 buildings in 2018 for apartments. Then kind of we decided to cut down to 15 and keep those 9 lots for commercial, because brewery came in and Jumbo came in. So another thing is also, you know, that on Grossman Development, I have Brett Crosby as a partner. So when I partner up with Naderman Brothers to do apartments in those 15 lots, and Brad wanted to basically get rid of other empty lots. And he had the buyers like landscaping guy, or somebody wanted to put a storage building, which is kind of, you know, stuff like that. So we decided to buy him out on the rest 9 lots, so we can control it, because we wanted nicer things. We want to be nicer people, especially like trying to work with restaurants, with pizza. But everybody has concern. I talked to Fiesta Cancun and Los Aztecas multiple times. They were like, when you're going to have at least 7 to 8 buildings, we will probably be out. Right now, they don't want to take this, because you know, restaurant and business is kind of risky. Same way, like Culvers wanted to come in, but headquarters basically denied them because not enough rooftops in the house. But there are still plenty of potential other businesses come in, just kind of need more people.
So you have 24 lots, 6 already going with apartments either on them or permits to develop. one lot's Dartford, one lot's Jumbo, one lot's Nine, one lot's Sutton Sisters.
One lot is, we have already, so physical therapy gonna come in 2 units and. Which
Is one of the lots that,
that building,
that building,
yeah.
okay, strip mall, okay.
So after that, we're just gonna have two more lots left.
So that takes you down to 13 lots, right? That's a lot. Okay, so 13 lots, and you want to do 9 of them out of those 13 with apartments. That's your goal, right?
Yeah.
So that leaves only,
So
Four
basically, we
lots.
decided from the color, basically,
So-
to the east apartment.
Right. so that leaves only 4 more lots for commercial. development.
No,
church-
church is
church-
a-
Yeah, church is good. So there's, I mean, and again, from a potential, from a city standpoint, we feel at this time, we don't need 15 apartment buildings. We need other commercial to help the citizens who are here
Again, in
to stay.
2018, I was approved for 24.
I understand, I wasn't here in 2000,
No, I'm.
so you know that. So we can only deal with today and forward. You know, 2028, maybe none of us are here and it's a whole different ballgame. I'm just, the council we have right now, the people we have here right now, what's been told to them is what's directed us. This isn't the council saying, stop, because we decide. We are the ones who make the decision, but it's based on what the citizens of Piasta
Yes, but
want.
also, I mean, we're using bank to get those apartment buildings built.
Right.
Bank has restriction on us too, so if we don't have certain amount rented out, then we can start another one. So that falls into that. If you won't be able to rent it out, you're not gonna have 5 or 10 buildings empty. We basically, we can go probably one at the time. It's what we've been doing for the last 2 years.
Right.
If we fill them out, then we can start another one.
So the million dollar question is what happens in 15 years with the hatch fund?
I mean,
We you don't want that to happen, but,
yeah, but I'm taking the risk on it more than city.
right, but you're not gonna let them sit empty. That's the questions I'm hearing. You can let them sit empty, or you're not letting them sit empty, right? So that $1,500 a month might drip down to 800, might drip down to 600 to get people.
I mean, and you know, by history, any apartment buildings and rent, it goes all the way up, not, it never comes down.
Unless it's enough.
But by history, you do, like, you've been talking with, you count to meet more house. So, and-
According to our
and-
studies, Piasta does not.
What?
By
According to our
2020
studies, our 2020
Yes.
study says we do not.
It is when you look at advanced small community, yes. when you look at all
That's
houses.
what I'm responsible.
Yeah, we're not responsible for what happens in Dubuque. We're responsible for Piasta. We don't get to tell. the
These
council.
are the questions we're feeling.
Where this is.
And I'm not.
Yeah, this is the open discussion part.
Yeah, so I think it's, Sergio said before that you anticipate multiple people coming tomorrow to, I guess, be in support of the zoning change, right?
I think more want to give their opinions
Okay.
of the parking complex.
All right. So I think it'd be important to take what multiple people are saying versus, are we talking about a handful, are we talking about this whole room full? Or is it gonna be a couple people who are gonna try to dictate what's going on in this grand scheme?
I know in 2021,
Yes.
there we had a meeting and there was close to, if I had to ballpark, if I looked at 200 people that were adamantly against apartments.
And they've been approved consistently since then.
That in particular development was not.
Okay. So that particular one wasn't, but we didn't have those same issues when these guys came in 2018. Haven't had the issues when they're coming to get their building permits or going through any of that.
If I can speak for the clerk's office, there were people that came in and complaining about, there's another apartment complex going up.
And
So, no, that's fine. I mean, and I'm sure Marcy's taken a phone call or two,
So to
on the
Joel's,
same issue.
to Joel's point then, is it a situation where it's they're complaining about the traffic? Or is it complaining that there's too many people in town?
What would be enough for you? You want to either minimize it to a handful, maybe, or if there's 200 people there tomorrow and every one of them or 90% of them speak against that, do you feel that's enough of a voice that's saying, this isn't a good idea for the city? I mean, you're the one who wanted to kind of do a number right there. And I'm just trying to, if there's 200 people there and 200 people get up and say, we don't want apartments for traffic, for overcrowding, for schools, for they're going to be empty and we're going to have, low-income housing. Whatever reason they give in their mind, we can or cannot change. It's not our job to can or can't change.
Yep.
Our job is to represent those people on this council. These are our constituents. And so that's who we're listening to. So when you come in and you want to say it's a small group or it's a large group, you're not really defining what difference that makes to you.
Well,
If it was 3 people, yeah, they're not speaking for the city. They're not. But if it's 200 people, that's a pretty good, that's, a pretty good representation of what people are thinking.
And I'm not disagreeing with you at all. And that's why I brought it up, is if it is just a few people that are gonna have such a major impact on what could be developed in this community, then, obviously that's up to you guys. You guys are the ones that make the call on what impact your voters have on it, right? You guys, that's your role. I just was bringing it up as it's something to.
I know in your letter, you guys stated 100% occupancy right now. Now, I also believe some of the apartments that you are renting, leasing, however we're calling that tonight, are not by the apartment people who live in the apartments. You have some corporate.
Yeah, I have,
What percentage of your apartments right now are corporate?
so we have 6 apartments basically rented to banks.
Okay,
They are out far away. And 2 apartments rented to somebody else. I can
Okay.
tell what
So-
realtors she has.
8 out of you have how many apartments right now?
Right now we have 42.
42. So 8, so 20%. What kind of leases do you have with those companies that is going to guarantee? And I'll go with the good and the bad of this. The good is that those apartments are occupied because the company needs those employees. And that's one way they found to have employees. The bad from maybe what our constituents would say is these are people who aren't renting that apartment. It's not their money. They, for lack of a better term, possibly could give a shit about how it's treated and how they handle it. And I'm not saying there is, because I don't know. I don't see it. I don't live far from there, so it's not like I see cars up and down my street because of the apartment. I see cars up and down the street because of other areas, but so traffic isn't really.
I mean, like Joe mentioned, he does inspections basically 2 times a year. We actually, what we do, we go every 3 months and change the filter.
What's your lease term?
1 year.
1 year, and then month to month?
No,
I mean, I know you're just getting started.
no, but
Joel's
what
been doing this.
what we can do it 1 year. If somebody doesn't want to extend for another year, then we will ask month to month, but we raise the rent.
Then you raise the rent? Is that what you
They're
said?
not guaranteed,
Yeah.
they're not guaranteed years.
No, I just
Yeah.
agree.
And then if they go month to month, then it's,
Then the rent goes up, but we go every 3 months to change filters because it's brand new equipment. We have gas heaters and everything, so we would like to keep an eye on it. We have gas heater, gas water heaters, and we send our maintenance guy every 3 months. We change filters every time. I mean, about 3, 4 pieces. So far about those employees, we didn't have any such complaint.
Question for you guys. In the other 9 lots that you're thinking about developing the departments, have you thought about multi-use buildings similar like what West Schulte is doing off Piazza Street, where it's got commercial on the bottom and residential on the top?
I mean,
are you
for us,
locked into
that actually like for business wise, is to consider like when you rent commercial space out, basically you have no maintenance, man, because most of the tenants, if they're gonna do it, when you have apartments, also people gonna call you with any maintenance issue, you know? So, yeah, we would consider that, but problem is, we have that building for over a year, we finally filled up 2 units, you know, and without more people that would come into the areas, then we can start to consider doing like other businesses. I mean, of course, we would consider.
I get the chicken and egg argument.
Yeah.
So there aren't enough people to support some of the other businesses we want, vice versa, and whatever. But that's why I'm concerned about, from a Piasta perspective, not a Dubuque County perspective, us being more of the housing for the need in Dubuque County versus maybe meeting some of our goals of people that come here, live here, work here, and then having some of the commercial businesses and things to support it. So, I mean, it makes sense that you're gonna build one at a time as you fill them up, right?
Yeah.
Kind of what
So,
I've heard you say.
I mean, and we already had in previous buildings, people move out and move in, and we never empty. There is demand. And just like I said, we cannot build, all of them right away and hope to fill it up. So, and usually, when you have already majority filled up, it's never.
So again, our housing study that evidently was done in 2020, which was after your stuff was cited in 2018 or site platted, says that by 2030, we're still potentially 30 to 35% over. So unless there's demand to fill those things, we're cobbling up development space that could be for other commercial uses for apartments that we can't fill long term. And that's one of my concerns.
I mean, like I said, if you cannot fill them up, none of the buildings will look for another business opportunity, of course, to do something with that. But we, like I said, we still have basically 3 empty lots on commercial side on that street, and we can bring businesses because everybody wants to see more customers.
So remind me again how many more of the ones are already permitted?
For commercial,
Permit for apartments.
2 more.
Lot Prospect. 2 more.
Yeah, they're currently building one and then lot
And another
19.
one.
Yeah.
Lot 19.
Is that right?
It's,
So you've got, where are you building right now? Sorry, this one?
yes,
Okay, and where's,
next door.
and then this one's the other permit?
Okay.
Okay, so these two,
And it's basically from the culvert over to the west. Those are the lots you reserve for other commercial development.
To the.
Yeah,
Or to the,
to the west, yeah, you're correct.
To the west.
to the west.
Commercials to the west.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just said
This-
the
this
one to
is-
the west of the culvert is
Right.
really more other commercial, other.
So I guess I'll ask the question. I don't know necessarily how to ask this question, but I'm just gonna start talking. So Joel actually said, okay, this is what, okay, I can't do, this is what I would like, right? I can't do everything else that I like. Do you have a position that if you can't do everything, what is your ask? And maybe, maybe you've not thought about that. I don't know. I'm just thinking.
as opposed to 9 more. Is there a middle ground?
Fair.
If we had to compromise between the two, that the council agrees.
An 8's not an answer.
It is the answer, it's not a good one. On the south side, what do you have, 2 left after that?
To the north.
No,
That doesn't necessarily have to have an answer today. I'm just posing it.
So this,
I mean, food for thought.
so on the, for Justin's question, you've got these 2, I can go just the south side of these 2. And then
One more.
you've got
Yeah.
this one,
Yes.
and then this one is
That's when we come back.
That's coming back to the city.
coming back to the city, and then the commercial up over this year. We've got
I think I was just trying to, kind of what Brian.
birds
was
already
saying,
known,
instead of,
right?
instead of cobbling it together.
Birds owns this one.
Yeah.
rather than just
So
continue to
then
build.
this is this.
And then maybe
bottom.
wide.
And then
The other
this
side
This one empty.
road
one's
along still.
empty, and then Sweating's up here.
Yes. So that's so future stuff.
And then these 2 here.
I mean, like I said, we had a couple of people come in, but you also don't want to sell our commercial lots to anybody, right?
Right.
Even like let's keep an eye, he asked us to do that, so he's like, I'm gonna keep it nice and clean. I was like, it's not gonna happen because landscaping guy, you're gonna pile of rocks in your yard and it's gonna look not organized and bad to say. Same way with like small storages, it's kind of also we don't want it. So it's why we propose it, so we would have those 15 buildings and apartments and we leave those 9 for like restaurants or other businesses like chiropractor, insurance guy.
So at this point, you have only 3 open for commercial,
Yes.
based on your thoughts of 9 more apartment buildings.
I mean, if we will sell those 3 and somebody will approach for other commercial lots, we will
Understood.
sell them, you know.
Yeah, understood
It's
that,
not-
yeah.
It's not the problem, I mean, just.
The problem for us is if you get to the point where you are building each building and it fills, and you put another one up and it fills, pretty soon, then there are no lots for commercial.
It's not that I have to quit.
Well, yeah, I'm just, I'm looking at all sides of this and decide that, for us, the question comes down to what is the best for the city? And again, I'm not discounting that what developers do and have done isn't good for the city. It is. What you've done, what Joe's proposing, what he started on, is good for the city. No one is debating any of that. How much of it is a good thing and how much of it is too much of a good thing? So rather than, somewhat, I don't want to say easy answer is, hey, we put up a bunch of apartment buildings and we're done. Developer out, the city still has to deal with it if there's an aftermath. If there's if you build all your apartment buildings and then you sell them off, or for Joel, you do the same thing, then you're out and the city still has to deal with any fallout that could happen. I think that's a large part of what we're dealing with.
I understand, but also like what I'm trying to say in those, 3 or 4 years, we have those commercial lots, we cannot sell them. And
Is it a price issue?
no,
Okay.
it's just,
I'm just asking. I don't know. It could be. Brett has brought up that the, along Juliana, that those lots are gonna be too expensive to build houses on.
oh, it's why we stopped it. So.
I'm just using your terminology. I realize I'm mixing.
No,
the
no,
methodology.
but that was different story on that one, because when we developed first 2 phases, we kept lots around 55,000.
Okay.
I mean, when we have in Dubuque, that lots are sell for 65, and development cost in next phase came up too high, we couldn't afford to put it in because we're gonna have to ask for lots for 90,000, but on commercial side, we still.
What are you asking for the lots?
Yeah, I'm asking 200,000 an acre.
200,000 an acre.
Yeah, but
And what are most of these lots?
I mean, around an acre.
Around an acre. So 200,000 gets you a lot. I don't know exactly the going
Yes.
rate.
I mean, in
Yeah, I don't-
Dubuque, you lots starting probably from 270.
Okay.
Because I know that George Newman, Jumbo Coffee,
Right.
he was looking for a lot like that, for quite a bit of years before he bought it from me.
Okay.
And I know him good because I built his personal house and I know him since 2000, probably 11. And he said that he was looking for 3 years to find something on a highway and to put a building like this, and for that price, basically, that he paid for a lot, it was, he said he had one in Key West on Highway 61. For a smaller lot, they were asking like over 200,000.
Should
For
raise your
35.
price. Should raise your price.
I mean, I should, but we still have empty lots, we can
Right,
sell it,
right.
so.
And again, I'm not a developer. I haven't sat in meetings on what it takes to cultivate a relationship with a potential buyer for one of those developments, for those commercial lots. I just know, all I hear is we need a nail salon. We need a Mexican restaurant.
Yes.
We need a Chinese restaurant.
I'm
We
trying.
need a UPS store. We need what?
Super target.
The super.
But
No, but
like, we have to remember. too,
and I approach every of those businesses and hair salon and things like those, but people just afraid that they're not gonna have enough customers. It's not,
How many is this? I mean, what are you being told that what's enough roof tons? Why is, we have a population of 2,000 roughly. I'm just, have you been by round two?
Yes,
Do you see how busy it is?
I know.
Do you go to- do you go to Lexi's
Have my
place?
house, you know.
You go to Lexi's place?
Yes.
Do you see how busy it is? Do you go
But I
to
think,
Red Roof?
I think it's,
Yeah, but-
I think it's two different things here.
Yes.
And I don't want to anybody have to do business. It is tough right now, but I don't think it's necessarily the cost of land. I think, and I think maybe if they're telling you it's roof tops, I think there might be leaning on that. I think people are kind of nervous of what's going on in the economy in general.
It's just the cost of doing business.
And I think it's, I don't think people want to
So
say
don't
that's
just throw
true.
money around.
You know what I'm saying?
And
I
the
think
bank's not
it's
gonna
just
do
a tough time right now. My opinion, I don't have none of these conversations, I just.
And restaurants especially are high risk businesses and they're not gonna, I mean, banks aren't, you know, most like I said, might make a killing, they have their three locations or whatever it is, but they can look at Piazza and say, the bank is, well, I mean, maybe you can be busy, but one of your other illustrations is gonna make sell and nobody's buying restaurants right now because banks aren't giving them money back. Everything's for sale.
Yeah, my house, 15 minutes. That's right.
They're selling them,
So back to John's question, a compromise number. You must have thought about it somewhat.
Because I didn't have a chance to today, right?
No,
We're
I
just
just throw that question out there.
We're just- Joel
I
came in,
understand, but-
Joel had an ask, and I stated that I thought that was not unreasonable.
I don't want to come across as being,
I mean, I understand but also kind of we invested a lot of money, so when we asked for that in 2018, we were approved. We asked again in 21, we were approved, and we changed the story.
Right.
And now.
but you already
now
have the land purchased, right?
In 21, I mean, I purchased that land whole in 2015.
Right, so my point is, you already own land, you're gonna do something.
Yeah, but before we developed the street in 2018, we were approved for 24 buildings, apartments.
Right, but you were gonna do something with that land, you own, you weren't gonna sit on it, right?
Yeah, but I wouldn't put that street in right away if I would know that I cannot do apartment. I mean, the reason is we would wait like for a TUT to buy it out or something. It's a lot less to pay for 15,000 an acre land interest than for over 1 million right now, right?
When was the first apartment? When did you break ground on the first apartment?
2 years.
21?
Yeah.
I have a quick, can I ask you? Sloan? So one of the things, and I think they're asking for, is more likely than not, that zoning change is gonna go through tomorrow.
I wouldn't necessarily say that for sure, Joe, I'm,
No, but it, even if you, and I'm in the business, but even if it somewhat makes sense for the city. So what they're asking you for is some or none more. Would you be happy with?
No. Yeah, but then.
No, but I'm.
Joe,
No.
you're putting me on the spot, now put you on the spot. I was approved in 2018, you were approved last year.
Yeah.
So why is this considered to give you 3 more buildings and cut me down?
And give you the three.
No,
Makes sense.
that's fair question then, Joe, right?
It is. It is.
So I was here since 2018, and 4 years later, you got approved, and now you get to have all of your project, I don't get mine.
I think this is part of the hard part is we're thinking about the long term for Piazza. When I make the decision, whatever it is tomorrow night on the zoning thing, I'm gonna be thinking about the long term. So the 2020 housing study that we've got shows that everything that you're already permitted to build, and Joel finishing his project and Wes is completing his, we're 135% of what we need by 2030. If you do another 4, we got another 100 units, we're like double the amount that we need. I mean, none of us are debating that we need some farm. I think we need some. My question is, can we really support all? And then what do we obviate in our ability to have other development and things in our commercial district that actually makes this more like a small city and not like just a bunch of bedrooms?
I mean, then I'll ask the question back. So in 2020, you had the studies, And you know, I'm coming with over 200 units in this land, right? And then you approve another 5 buildings and apartments in 2021 or 2022.
I just got elected,
No, I mean,
so I
I'm
can't
what I'm
read it as I
saying, you
go.
know,
Yeah, I wasn't
so,
here in 20.
But I already invested so much money in it, now what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna go bankrupt if I'm not gonna be able to use this land.
It's a good
Oh, we want you to
question.
be able to use that.
Respectfully, you had your study in 2020. And since that time, you've approved the additional developments. And I know it may not have been this particular configuration of approved, but as you represent the city of Piasta and its constituents, you also have to think about the potential exposure that you have at this point, because these folks have both followed all the rules, gone through the processes, got approval, invested substantial sums of money in the infrastructure and the roads. And a lot of what they build is based on the number that they think that they can build in that particular location, whether it's where the roads work, where the garages are located, where the sidewalks are. That's all part of an overall plan. And they brought those plans to you and then acted in good faith reliance on your representations that these projects would be permitted and have substantial financial investment in it. And if now, as a committee, you pull the rug out from underneath them, there's substantial financial losses that are on the table. And I think that as you weigh in your head how to handle the needs of the community, I think you have to keep that in mind too. You knew at the time both these projects were, proceeding, that the 2020 study existed. And yet you continue to approve the housing development in the area. It puts us in a pickle.
So I guess there's no fallback position for the understood.
I mean, at this point, like I told you, we are not going and building 15 buildings right away. If you will have a buyers to buy a couple lots for the businesses, that's gonna help to rent our apartments. Because if you're gonna have a restaurant next door or something, I don't think we're gonna have a problem with that to sell a lot. But as of right now, I mean, I am paying huge interest to the bank. If I'm not gonna develop it, I can support it.
Anything else?
Like I said, we will be open, yes. Then let's try and go and find those businesses. If I will sell those lots tomorrow, I'm gonna be fine. I will be happy.
Something the city can do more of is reaching out and talking to some of these businesses they want to come to town more often than just make development group running.
Has the Piasta Economic Development, have you been on this at all?
We're still in the forming versions of the, it's not truly up and running yet. Is that fair to say?
It is fair.
Do they have is there any economic projects in the future coming? I know AWise was.
No, they have nothing to do with that. What they're focusing on right now is daycare.
So no other projects now kind of scoping out.
They're still very crawling before walking.
Yes.
They have an event in May at the, one of the, I think round 2, where they're inviting all the business owners to try to spur some kind of economic plan. And that's in like May 26th, May 15th, something. So they're definitely at a crawling stage versus walking. Yeah, we're sure it's not right yet. Yeah, that takes a little time. But
Be real by COVID. All right. any of you hearing anything in particular from our big employers on, off of Cap Drive about their inability to attract employees because we don't have housing?
That's me. Yeah, it's brutal.
Could you, no,
I'm sorry. My name is Pat Iverson. I have a business here. I've had it for 30 years. I employ a couple hundred people. At the very end of the day, there's a lot of different types of housing. There are ones that are gonna have a $1,200 appetite, ones that are gonna have an $850 appetite. But think about when you guys were in Butte, maybe not you young too, but when you first came to the Butte 30, 40 years ago, 20, 30 years ago, you can work at John Deere's for $14 an hour and find a $350 apartment. Those days are over. So a guy that wants to get out of his mom and dad's basement, like most people want to, and then they have to be 26 years old and be on their parents' insurance, and they just want to get going, they need to find that housing where they can pay, $500, $600, $700, maybe get a roommate and get the business, to get their life started. I'm not talking about low-income housing. I'm talking about, getting your shoes tied, starting line of life and running and being responsible and learning how to pay those bills. So I had a worry. I knew about this, and then I had talked, and I wanted to build a 12-plex, and obviously I'm not going to talk about that, no worry. I saw Denver Clinton here, and now Frank Gomes said, man, she's a bulldog fighter. But that was a long time ago, I will tell you, but I do have that concern. I have a selfish concern, and that selfish concern is I always need 50 people all the time. But a lot of my workers, imagine this, you start off life with an empty food toolbox. You don't have a plumb, you don't have a hammer, you don't have a chisel, you have nothing. And little by little, life starts giving you things. Maybe in your trade, it's tools. In my trade, it's abilities. Unload a truck, drive a forklift, check in inventory, run a piece of machinery. Well, little by little, they start putting those index cards in that toolbox, and they become more valuable. And then they go from a $550 apartment, single bedroom, to an 800, to a 1200, to a CEO. But those steps are so critical. I built ITC from absolutely nothing. And what I would have killed for was the break of having low overhead at the beginning. That's what I'd kill for. So eventually, hopefully we'll all meet when you guys are still in term. But my goal is to not go near what they want to do, but say, there's a lot of people there. There's 1,000 people in the industrial park. How many of them are trying to start at Mighty M where they're making $20 an hour and they want to be out of their mom and dad's basement? And those are the focuses that I have. So we're not there yet. We got a long way off, but I got a piece of commercial property that I wish that I had built a 12-plex on, just to fill it up with my kids. That's it. So I learned by listening tonight, we all have a thirst to see Piasta do great. You guys might have a financial concern now, and I have a long-term concern, but at the very end of the day, if Piasta succeeds, we all succeed. When the waters go up in this town, all of our boats go up. Simple as that. So I will not interrupt, but it was fascinating listening, by the way. I learned a lot. So yeah, it's really tough because Piasta, when I came here, it was a gravel road on Burge Road. It was gravel. When they were putting the pavement down Burge Road, I ran out there and stopped the pavers and said, hey, I can't afford this. You guys cannot pave in front of my street. And they're like, don't worry, it's somebody else paid for it. I'm like, well, come on in and pay my parking lot. But those were a long time ago. Those incremental changes that I would have loved to have taken. At first, I would have swung by a vine as thin as a thread. And now I need chain link. But along the way, somebody is in that stage of life. You say your name is Joey, is it? Yes. Joey, you're in a much different stage of life than me. Trust me, yours is better. Okay. But we're all different things. My boy Max called me the other day and he said, Dad, the toilet won't flush. What do? Pick up the lid. The chain probably broke. Grab that black cylinder, lift it up. My God, Dad, how do you know that would work? I'm 58 years old. We're all at different stages. We're all at different project stages. Now, I got a love with it. I've been in Piasta long enough to see it go a hell of a lot faster than the studies, because the studies are based off of somebody maybe in a different city. But my fingers are on the pulse. They're right there every single day. How many people say to me, John, is there any place to live around here? Any place to live around here? So that's a really tough. It's really tough to me to contend with. And my selfish thing is if I supply, I think it was you who said socialization. If I supply a roof and a place to park a car, and keep it in good shape and close to work. All those things will benefit my bottom line, long term, not short term. But I will tell you, one of the things that we both speak about is what kind of tenants are we going to get? Well, I can tell you right now, Piasta is not going to draw people that are difficult because they don't want things to do, and Piasta is still not there. People that in Piasta, they're just good stock people that want to wake up and work hard. Have you ever met anybody in Piasta that did it? I have. I'm still looking for that.
Yeah, it's a good employee base. Let me ask you one follow-up question. Out of your couple hundred employees, how many live in the community now?
Not enough. I got them in Manchester, I got them in Guttenberg, I got them all over. But I can tell you, it's because of where they are.
Right.
You know, I'd love you to visit the factory. I've got the most stunning group of people. I only lose 2% of my employees a year. I lose nobody. They're all hardworking, good people. But the opportunity for them to live here, unless they've got a wife who works and 2 kids in the community, you know, they're looking for something a little bit more, I don't want to use bargain, but a little more in the budget. So, yeah, it's, I think we all have skin in the game. You know, if there's more people that lived here, I have more access to people. And I'm gonna tell you, I thirst for them every day, just like my dad, just like Barbara Bag and anybody, we're all fighting for the same people. And after COVID, you know, we got a history. You know, we lost 52 people that were what we called our a non-traditional worker. A non-traditional worker for us were people that worked at Barbara Bag or Mighty M or Swiss Colony, and they wanted to work 2 extra nights a week, 4 hours a night, just to catch up on their bills. So we had our stock, 200 people, and we had about 52 people that were from Bodie Electric and Captain Plastics, whatever they're called now. And those people said, hey, Pat, can I work Mondays and Wednesdays, Tuesdays and Fridays, or just Sunday mornings? And we were able to get 50 people. As soon as COVID hit, guess what? They all went to the woodwork and never came back. We don't know why. We just thought that they decided that hey, it's pretty nice not worth it. So, yeah, I think that, you know, we want the right people. You know, you don't want to go shopping when you're hungry. You buy ding dongs and cupcakes and Snickers bars. That's no good for you. But when you go when you're full, you buy asparagus and you buy rutabaga, and you buy things that are healthy for your body. 55 and older apartments might be healthy for the community. Other ideas like mine might be unhealthy. I don't know. That's your poor job to figure that out. And that, to me, is a very difficult knot to untie. So you've been here a long time in Piasta now. How many years? 15? 16 years. 16, yeah. And you know, you've seen it blossom and you've seen it struggle. And you know, it's very difficult to turn this type of community. But it all starts with humans, and it all starts with people being able to live and get ahead and feel proud of what they do. Now, I got to tell you something. It's not going to sound good to you guys up here, but I employ about 15, 20 people from the Apple House. And one thing I've learned when we pick them up at 5 in the morning, I listen to them in the bus. When people without hope they don't want to play. If you give people hope, a place to live, I'm not talking that community. I'm talking somebody coming like Joey here, coming out of college or wherever and wants to start life. You give them that chance, they will climb up that rock. But if they have nothing to gain, if they feel like you're not getting ahead, that hopelessness is very tough to deal with. So, you know, I see the community growing, and I beam with a smile when I see it. But I also know you're taking a tremendous risk. And are you from Russia or Poland?
No, Ukraine.
Ukraine, okay. I wasn't sure if this was done. I've been to Perestroika. I've been to Russia when it fell. And you know, when Russia fell in 1991, there's all these natural resources, but there were no players. They had this gigantic stadium of everything. You know, obviously Ukraine, best in the world, but no players. The players, the guys who take the risk, like Mr. Callahan here, those people are hard to find. People that will risk their dollar because the knife falls on them when it falls, and it falls hard. So, you know, I just wish to listen today, and I appreciate you hearing me out. I love Piasta as much as any of you guys, I really do. So I hope the decision that's made keeps in mind that Piasta is a vibrant place, and it's just looking for that next generation of people to build it.
I guess I'll give you guys closing arguments. That's the order if you want.
Here's all before we kind of wrap up here. Ryan sent with the Dewberry Chamber of Commerce. We have about a couple dozen businesses here in Piasta, a number of them out in the industrial park. And just want to speak up and maybe get a better sense and just kind of talk about what I'm hearing and where the chamber is, the business community is coming from on this issue. So we've been tracking this since early January when you guys started talking about it. And kind of what we're hearing tonight is what we've been hearing for a while is, the housing study that was referenced. Beyond that. And one thing that was talked about at the council table tonight was, concern over whether or not we can fill up apartments, right? And particularly it was mentioned, we serve Piasta, we don't serve the county. But I think Pat brings up a good point when he mentions that a lot of the people that work in Piasta would like to live here, but cannot live here. So they are not your constituents right now. That is true. They want to be your constituents in Piasta, but they need that place to live. In the housing study, things that were mentioned in that, one of the key takeaways was provide residential opportunities for a complete life cycle of residents. So when Pat mentions, those people that are just starting out in their careers, those are a lot of the folks that are looking to live in some of these apartments. And like to put a face on it, right? Like I talked to Joel earlier today. I do the government affairs for the Chamber of Commerce. I live in one of Joel's apartments. So, it's not just, random people that aren't working that are living in apartments. They're, young professionals that are,
Which apartments do you live in?
I live in Dubuque in his apartments out there off cycle. And so, like, again, in the comprehensive plan, it also references more housing variety as an opportunity to provide options for all that want or need to live in Piasta. So in your own planning documents, it calls out a need for that. And I think part of the difficulties relying just on a housing study is missing that need that is countywide of people that travel in here to work, but can't afford to live in the community right now. That I think is an important consideration as you're thinking about how to address the zoning changes tomorrow is that, there is a high demand for housing and high demand for housing for people that want to live close to where they work. There are a lot of people that commute from all over the county and outside the county into Piasta because of the job opportunities. And that's something I think people are very jealous of, right? Piasta has like the most enviable situation right now. You have so many people wanting to develop, move to your community that you're struggling. How do we manage this, right? And how do we create a place that people want to live? The other thing that I heard brought up today was, this is meant to be the commercial district, right? We want this to be kind of the central business district where we have businesses that are flourishing. I think, again, it's important to note some of what was brought up from Mr. Slaughter tonight that, it is the chicken and the egg, but really the businesses follow where the people are. And people will move to where, there's a restaurant across the street, but they'll also move to where they work, right? But the businesses that are retail, they need customers to support their business. And so even if you look down to Dubuque, there are businesses there are large, either big box or even just restaurants that are owned by some of those larger chains that will not locate in Dubuque because there's not enough people there, right? And that's a community much larger. They're looking at the whole catchment area of the county. And so when we think about Piasta having enough rooftops, right? You can't get enough, like you can't build enough within the next 5 years to attract some of those big box folks. Like a Target is going to have a really hard time making the argument to move to the Piasta. I know, I hate to, but my point is that, there are options, I think, that are even in the middle ground of what we're talking about here today. When we think about a lot of the parcels that he owns here, we're kind of talking in like, can it be commercial? Can it be residential? And really, there's an option in between there, which is, commercial on the first floor, apartments on the top that makes sure that, you have that really attractive boulevard where people have, you know, here's the clothing store, and then here's where I get my nails done, and here's where I do all of those things, but it's more economically viable because you have people living there right above those businesses. And as council, you have the opportunity to, you know, to make that more intentional and say, we want to support retail first floor, apartments on the second floor. So it doesn't have to be like no more apartments, only commercial, or vice versa, right? There is a negotiation that can be undertaken by council to see like what is economically viable, and that, you know, then it doesn't also put the burden on someone to build a strip mall, right, and fill those units. It can, you know, be something that like Mr. Slavic can build those buildings, fill the apartments on top, and then work to find tenants for those commercial spaces in coordination with the city and with Shasta Economic Development Group. That's still walking, but is trying.
It's crawling.
It's crawling. Okay. So my point is just that I think that, you know, I hope at the very least it's mentioned in the recommendations for tomorrow's council meeting that, you know, you potentially waive the 3 readings. I would encourage you not to do that and continue to think about this long and hard before you make that decision to kind of completely cut off the residential the apartment development, because there is a demand in the community for it. They have both said, we're not going to build them unless we know we can fill them, right? They're taking on that financial risk of filling up those buildings. So they see the demand for people wanting to move to your community, which again is you know, I think is something to be proud of. But I just want to make sure before you guys have any closing remarks to reinforce some of those thoughts that were discussed today. So appreciate you letting me speak up.
Thanks, Ryan. I think what we've said, what everyone wanted to say, and I think everyone has a good understanding of where we're at. We're at an end. Ryan's recommendation probably made the 3-week reading, so it's probably we'll be looking at doing that. The question at this point is potentially more 21 permits.
There is a resolution out on the agenda tomorrow night if the decision is made to lift that.
There's a resolution that we lift the moratorium.
To lift it, yeah. The
To lift it.
decision is made, yes.
If the decision is made to change the ordinance, the zoning ordinance.
If we leave it as is, it's a moot point. So yeah, if we change the zoning ordinance, the moratorium is still in effect. Because that means if we change the zoning, there's no more apartments that are allowed in C1 or C2 or R3.
You guys have nothing else for adjourn the meeting, and I'm guessing see you tomorrow night.
Thank you for letting us.
Yep.
Together.
Thank you.